I think that many of us don't realize how much we interact with intellectual property on a daily basis, whether it's using your cell phone or cooking from a recipe or listening to your favorite song or buying your favorite brand. And I think most of us don't realize that all of that is embraced by the concept of intellectual property. So just having a broader understanding of what intellectual property rights encompasses certainly helps people to realize the value of IP and how much they interact with it on a daily basis. And I think what WIPO tries to do is they try to create awareness of what are those rights and how do we go about protecting those rights. And of course, they do that by way of harmonizing laws across the globe, setting down uniform rules for people to follow. And that really is what builds the background and the basis for all of these rights that helps us to understand where those rights come from and how we interact with them every day.
The importance of the inclusivity of particularly vulnerable communities, and I know we are saying the focus is on women, but women tend to empower a lot of these vulnerable communities even though they form part of it. So speak to us about that.
I think that is a very sensitive topic, and I do think that it is something that WIPO they've taken up the challenge to try and highlight that, because I think in a lot of communities, certain what we would call STEM fields, which is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields, are not necessarily fields that many people have access to. And that's for a variety of reasons. Either they don't have good role models, or that they don't have mentors, they don't have access to funding. So in those type of fields, a lot of people feel very distant from development of technology and creativity on that level. And I think the importance of something like World IP Day is that it creates awareness around that, and it makes people realize that these rights are available to anybody and everybody who has something innovative or creative that they want to share with the rest of the world, and how important that is and how uplifting that can be for certain communities and how much it can add to socioeconomic development. Because even on a micro level, something that you create, or whether it's a song or an artwork, can change someone's life. Really, that's the basics of it, you know.
Absolutely. And
not everything has to be a patentable medicine or something highly technical. It can be something that's really quite innovative and creative on a personal level.
So let's look at South Africa in particular. How do we stack up in terms of competing with the Global Innovation Index ranks world economies according to their innovation capabilities? Because if you're talking about agency, we must have the infrastructures in place for people to be able to enjoy them.
So I think we are behind the rest of the world. I think that's also because of our just the structure of our society and the way in which our communities don't necessarily all have access to information about what is important about protecting their intellectual property rights. But in actual fact, everybody has access to the same rights, and everybody has to go through the same process when they wish to acquire those rights. It doesn't matter whether you are an individual who's created something, or if you're a huge global organization. Everybody has to go through the same process. And I think that in this country, we need to spend more time educating people about what their rights are and what is required in order to protect those rights. Because only when those rights are protected under the law can you then enforce those rights against infringements. So yes, I do think that if you consider how we stack up against the rest of the world, we're definitely on the knowledge level, we are behind everybody else. But I also think that we are trying in our own way to take steps to try and improve that.
And in emphasizing the relationship between innovation and development, certainly that lesson was, forced on us because we were caught napping, and as much as we plan and we plan to execute, COVID-19 taught us a thing or two, and as a result, a lot of families are poorer for it. They've lost loved ones as a result. They are not gainfully employed. So how do we bridge the divide?
I think it's all about education, and I think it's about taking things down to really to grassroots level. And I think that what you will find is that there's a huge need for education, and there's a huge need for knowledge, and there's a hunger for information about what can be protected and how do we go about protecting creativity, technology, and innovation. And I think WIPO has really stepped up to the plate. We've recently in the firm been involved in an initiative in Namibia, and it's just one of the rollouts that they've started about educating Namibian women entrepreneurs about what are your rights, how do you go about protecting them. So I think what you really need to do is you need to start educating people about, because most people don't understand what their rights are. It's just because they don't understand, they think that nobody protects their rights, and therefore nobody cares about their rights. But that's not the case, because the law protects everybody if you just take certain steps that you need to take in order to get those rights registered or protected. So I do think that, and I think that COVID had a massive impact on all of us, and even in our industry, it had a huge impact. And I think what a lot of people realized in that period was that there were certain things that were missing from their lives that hadn't been protected over a period of time. And I think that with education, those are the type of things that we need to improve.
So very quickly, basic rule of thumb, as they say, when you don't know that you don't know. So if you're coming up with an innovation, or you're trying to improve your life in a manner that you think could also impact on those around you positively, what should you be doing? What's your first port of call?
Well, I think the first thing that you should do is you should try and reach out to either your local, so the South African SABC, which is our property company registry and patent and trademark registry office, will give very helpful information in relation to the protection of intellectual property rights. They will also refer you to firms of attorneys who will be able to help you in order to secure protection for those rights. And if you don't know, it's just a simple matter of trying to reach out to attorney firms that specialize in those type of fields. And there are many of us in South Africa. I represent one of the biggest IP firm in Africa, but that's just one of the firms that's involved. There are many firms, and they can all deal with the protection of patents, trademarks. We can give advice on copyright, and we give that to a wide range of clients, small individuals all the way through to corporate. So nobody is prevented or precluded from securing or getting advice in relation to what their rights could potentially be.